With the whirlwind turnaround to rescue Kapal, I was glad we'd had that day of rest back on the Factor's forward operating base. There hadn't even been a proper debriefing with General Takahashi, with Velk shooing us right back onto the ship. It wasn't ideal, but the Marshal clearly wanted to hurry us along by the second. Besides that, I didn't want to leave Cappy to rot in a cell any longer than necessary. His hosts seemed to have been rough with Dawson. I telepathically messaged Takahashi a handful of details that had been glossed over before we left. I hastily described everything from the judiciary and the Aleutian traitor, how 5D knocked us out for 11 hours, how the probe had shattered after a few glances, and my newly unearthed farsight ability. Her header snapped toward the spacecraft when I told her right before we walked off Earth's soil that Karai and I were an item. It was probably a good thing that she never heard the part where I broke the Watcher out of prison, endangering humanity for someone who might not have been on our side. "How are we going to find your friend?" Velk demanded, having retrieved the nanobot files at a blistering pace. The Marshal might have the secondary motive of wanting to return to supervising his insane invasion as soon as possible. "You don't seem to know where he's been held prisoner." I scratched the back of my head. I'm going to do it like I trained the normal precog. Once we get to Keelam, just walk me 2 feet until it works. It seems like it's only for stuff in the dimension I'm in. Like, I've done it once, but I also just knew things. "Excellent. That's reassuring. You inspire such confidence in your abilities." "I'm sorry, would you magically understand how to use freaky brain abilities? I can't just read a singularity like a book." "Preston cannot read any books," Mikri added. "He's computationally challenged and basically illiterate." Sophia crossed her arms. "Mikri, I love you, but you can't call anyone illiterate after your takes from our book club. You're asking for Meston to clap back at you." "Obviously, I want to be roasted." The scientist frowned with displeasure. "Wouldn't you prefer compliments that elevate your self-worth?" "No, I know I am great. I like being stepped on and eviscerated. That's how I know it comes from the heart." "A roasting? Not over a fire, presumably," I mused. "You'd be shitty cavalry because your lazy behind never holds a charge." "Oh, great. My turn. Your jokes are so cheesy. That's why you're afraid of mice." "Wait, you're afraid of mice?" Karai snickered. A growl rumbled in my throat. "Mikri, shut the fuck up!" Velk shouted, fury shaking his voice. "We're crossing over to Keelam. Figure out how to find your friend or else." The Vaskar pulled a party horn out from under one of his wrist panels and placed it in my mouth. I complied and exhaled with gusto, though the Marshal wasn't provoked by the whimsical noise. He waited for his people to generate a new portal to Keelam, much like when they built an opening to Sol. Velk set his vessel to autopilot, then let his brain be temporarily deadened. Karai plucked the noisemaker from my mouth and unfurled the paper right onto the tip of my nose with a smile. She winked at me, before allowing the nanobots to knock her out for transit. Wait, is the random panel under Mikri's wrist clean at all? He doesn't even dust himself ever. If you'll make it out of this war in one piece, I'm going to celebrate by gifting him a feather duster. Glorious. I decided to focus up as we passed through the 5D portal, hoping I could tap into the far side to locate Kapal. It didn't work in 5D for some reason, likely because every universe was too much, while 4D narrowed it down to 1. Karai rebounded from being resuscitated yet again, though she was looking exhausted. The Aleutian opened a simple portal effortlessly. Show off. I remembered how I'd reached out to the Singularity through the 5D probe, so I tried to reach out yet again with my mind. Where was Kapal? 1 foot through to hop to the back of the ship, and I was elsewhere, looking over Meganerd's shoulder in a drafty cell, as some buffoons that called themselves brigands were keeping an eye on him. They'd forced Kapal to build some kind of negative energy device, which was nearing completion. Jakov. I remember that name from before, has sent Zitre to monitor Cappy's progress, since that traitorous metal lump understood what he was doing better. I could see a hopelessness in the organic Vaskar's eyes that I knew all too well, and I reached out toward his feelings even further, a formless extension of myself that could absorb knowledge like a sponge. Kapal was running a test with a negative energy sample, and there was no way he was letting Jakov get his mitts on this. The time to act was now. The brigands had pulled him away from the group so that he wouldn't try to escape, which was why... Hey, Fikray? Kapal prompted, rage in his eyes. Fikray leaned forward, satisfied with lording over the creator. Yes? Fuck you. The Askar yanked the handle on his device, praying that his plan would work. He'd only have a split second after it opened up to dive through and rejoin his buddies. It was simple. Oh, of course that motherfucker thought that was simple. Kapal's reasoning was that he didn't want to warp his friends straight into Fikray's arms by opening the portal right on top of them. However, he conveniently placed the teleporter's other side right in the middle of the wall to Dawson's cell, dematerializing it. Kapal dove through the newly opened portal just after it deleted the wall. Dawson was caught off guard as the Askar frantically waved at him. The battered human crawled like an infant, unable to walk. However, just driving a shoulder into Jetty, Reg and Hiri's cell was enough to destroy it, since that wall wasn't built to contain humans. While he wasn't fast, funnily enough, Mr. Fields could keep up with the Kelamites on all fours. Wild. What an inferior plan! Fikray whirred with rage in another room, running to catch them with a contingent of guards. I thought your services may have been useful, Kapal, but you are done! Done! My grip on the scene was slipping, though I asked it one final question, vaguely remembering that I needed an answer. Where are you? Coordinates! The numbers appeared in my head in human notation, as if I'd always known them. I burst the bubble of my vision with an explosive push, like emerging from beneath water's surface while drowning. I turned towards Karai and held the digits at her mind before I regained my senses enough to speak. The Aleutian nodded, making another portal. You're abandoning the ship? Velk exclaimed. I turned back for a split second, huffing with frustration. No time, in and out. We can walk right back into it, or you can stay here. The Fakra scowled, before grabbing his gun and trudging after us. Sophia tested her razors and gave me a nod. She walked alongside Mikri and I as if we'd scripted it, finally acting together in the midst of danger. Before she got teched up by the Aleutians, I would have been worried about Dr. Aguado in a combat situation, even with soul strength. However, razors and nanobots made us godlike compared to what any brigands were capable of. Blood rushed to my brain stepping through the portal, but I shrugged off another far-sight vision, fighting through blurred senses. Now wasn't the time. I lurched forward while the world was mere pixels, and found that my farsight had given us the exact location of Kapal's cell. The Askar and his friends had already run off ahead, which meant we had to play catch-up. Karai and Velk emerged right behind us, while Mikri jumped on my back not to slow us down. I figured our hyper-advanced Aleutian and Fakra party members could fend for themselves. I can't keep up, but I can warp alongside you. Don't worry about me. Let's go save your friend, Karai said, echoing my thoughts. I sprinted down the hallway toward the sound of the noise, as the Aleutian placed a helpful portal in front of us, on the fly. It was disorienting to barrel at full, so-enhanced speeds into another hallway, and I knocked in a wall trying to turn on accident. It was all I could do not to slow down, not even to rub into Sophia that she was falling quite a few steps behind, despite me carrying an overweight tin can. I could vaguely hear the sound of Kapal pleading around the next corner, as Fikri and her subordinates had caught them. Kill them and dispose of the bodies. We will get other scientists to continue his research, like Jakov said, the android ordered. Karai? I could hear the sound of gun safeties being unclicked, and we were out of range to use our razors, or to catch up in time. A little help? The Aleutian threw several portals down in front of us, ensuring that the five of us were deposited in the same room as Kapal and crew. My head snapped upward, sensing metal fragments where I could, and freezing them in midair. Karai, Velk and Sophia helped, as more rounds were unloaded by a firing squad around Kapal. Together we levitated hundreds of bullets in suspended animation, until the brigands wielded empty weapons and stared in shock. Wait, what the... Kapal looked up from where he was ducking, with his paws over his poofy head. His jaw dropped with pure confusion. Aleutians have hair? Oh right, we have grey skin now. Karai smirked, glancing at me. That's an awful lot of bullets. Very cute. Not as cute as Preston, of course. It's me, Kapal. I gotta glow up and this is my girlfriend Karai. I spoke into the Askar's mind, causing him to jump nearly a foot off the ground, with his fur sticking upright. Well, I don't want to hog all the bullets. Return to sender. I flicked my wrist, sending my fragments flying back at the brigands who'd fired them. The firing squad dropped with a bunch of new holes that hadn't been there before, a squelching sound of tearing flesh being the last one they ever made. Thicray was all that was left, and Sophia handily flung it back against the wall. Reg stared in shock, while Jetty actually looked happy to see us. Hiri looked beyond death's door. I could disembowel Jackov for letting that cute, sick kid rot in a cell. Mikri circled Thicray, diabolical intent in his eyes. You disgrace our network. I'm telling them everything you did too, so expect no mercy. I won't let them forget where our loyalties should lie. You tarnished our reputation in the eyes of the humans, and everyone else, when I've worked so hard to be seen as a person. Come to think of it, it must be weird for Mikri to be reconnected with his network, after all of this time not being in communication with them. They'd been an omnipresent part of his life. I hadn't even realized enough to ask whether the separation was distressing, for the months the Vaskar had spent helping us train with Karai and Triaps across Suam. Perhaps that had contributed to some of his lapses with attachment issues, since we were all he had. A person? You defile yourself, Thicray sneered. You're the most laughable servitor of them all. You are a sadistic fool that cares about vengeance instead of compassion. Mikri slammed the other robot's head into the floor with a screeching beep. I noticed Velk flinch at those words. I'm going to reinstall the memory wipe on you, so you can pay for your hatred. Sophia pulled the tin can away from his rival. No, Mikri, that's not how we do things. We have to handle this civilly, like we would with any organic. Or what would the network think? We're going to take Thicray back with us, and try it for its crimes. We're better than doing something cruel like that godforsaken memory wipe. Hey, what the fuck did they do to you? To us? Dawson yelped, horrified by our skin color update. Karai walked over to the group, trying to act soothing and non-threatening. It's just nanobots. It's okay. We're going to take you somewhere safe. I'm sure you've been in a lot of pain, but if you wanted to try nanites out, they can fix your injuries. Your friends will need to take them too to come back to Sol with us, and as a replacement for little Hiri's medicine. The Durandi child coughed. Preston, I knew you'd save us. Here's me, little man, delivering a nice can of whoop-ass, I chuckled. Velk tossed a file to Karai. Give them to the child first, he doesn't sound good. And who the fuck are you? Dawson protested, backing away from the Aleutian and the Fakra. They're the Fakra, Kapal answered. Thicray told me about them. The network found their dimension-traveling crew comatose years ago. I take it then they figured out that you need to die in transit? The Marshal gaped at the Askar. How? How do you know that? I've had plenty of time to think it over. The nanobots, presumably, are an ingenious solution, flipping a switch in the brain. At least I assume that's why Preston's girlfriend says we'll need to take them to Cross. Aleutian technology is starting to make some sense. If you don't mind, I'd love to know your capture mechanism for our white hole's negative energy. I'm missing that piece, or at least the means to achieve it. Holy shit, Preston. You're not usually a credible source. Karai stole a glance back at me, while injecting Hiri with the nanobots. Well, Kapal, and you've had no contact with us or prior explanations about any of this? Dear me, I am impressed. You figured out what took us millions of years in a prison cell? Kapal mimicked a human shrug. It was obvious. What other solution was there? I told you, I don't call him Mega Nerd the Brown lightly, I cheered, grinning. The Aleutian tapped a finger to her chin. I would love to hear more about our beloved Mega Nerd's research notes. As would I, Velk grunted. And for the record, the Fakra were the Aleutians' first created species that they abandoned. You have some catching up to do on the history side, at least. Much has transpired and been learned by humanity in your absence. Shit, I'm just glad the humans are back, Reg chuckled. I didn't know if we'd ever see them again, or what happened to Preston and Sophia in the tunnel. I hope this means we can resume our work in Keelam, and deal with that bastard Jakov. Sincerity burned in Jetty's eyes. Thank you for saving us. For saving Hiri. He was really suffering, but those nanobots seem to have already given him a second wind. You were never out for yourself the way Jakov is. Yeah, thanks, Preston the Grey, Kapal murmured. I'd love to see Sol. I was jealous of you guys being able to torch a path through the tunnel from day one. Maybe now I can have a real conversation about moving to Earth. And I'd love to catch up, but can we please get out of here? You do have a plan, right? Karai offered a gentle smile. I'll warp us back to Velk's ship. We can get you fully up to speed there. The illusion warped all of us, including prisoner Fikre, back onto the Fakra's cozy ship. These four could use a hot meal and a cushy bed, on top of a medical lookover, but I was relieved that our rescue mission had gone smoothly. It was nice to have our old Keelam lineup back together, after all this time since our makers derailed every painstakingly cultivated friendship we'd earned. With Kapal impressing Karai and Velk with what he discovered on his own, humanity might get the chance to focus on scientific research instead of manning Swarm's front lines.